Kevin Garnett's 2004 MVP season is by far one of the greatest individual seasons that we've seen from an NBA player, and it doesn't get spoken about anymore, which is very shocking. Whenever someone brings up the greatest power forwards, it always starts with Tim Duncan, then after it can get a bit scrambled, we'll hear Dirk, Giannis, and Karl Malone as well. And of course Kevin Garnett is in that conversation as well. However, I don't think people really understand how insane of a peak he had, because when we think of Kevin Garnett, we think of his run with the Celtics. You had amazing players on that team. Rajon Rondo, Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, obviously Kevin Garnett, Kendrick Perkins, and that's only a few of the amazing players that were on that great team. We also think of him yelling anything is possible, or those clips of him on the Brooklyn Nets after he got a little washed. But before any of those eras of Kevin Garnett, there was a young and hungry Kevin Garnett on Minnesota. This version of him was by far the best player he ever was. And it wasn't because he won a championship or he was surrounded by an amazing team. It was because there was literally no holes in his game. There is hardly anything bad I can say about him this season. He could score at will, he could pass the ball and assist his teammates, and he could defend all positions. He could switch onto whoever while protecting the rim. He had an entire franchise on his back. You see, and the one thing that keeps popping in my head is, how is no one talking about this season? This was more than an MVP season. It was a player that can literally do anything, and doing it at the highest level in the world. We also need to see the position that Kevin Garnett was in. I think we all know this, but Minnesota isn't a franchise that we see making it into a deep playoff run. They aren't a dynasty-like franchise like the Lakers, Spurs, or Celtics. For years, Garnett was carrying this team into the playoffs every year almost, and he'd get the same ending each time. First round exits over and over again. And imagine how difficult that is. Being one of the top basketball players in the world and your season ends earlier than it should, and you don't get a chance to prove to the world how great you really are. Eventually people will think that you don't have it in you, and begin debating if you can actually win and take your team to the finals. Kevin Garnett dealt with that for a long time, and finally his MVP year came, 2004, and alongside that, Minnesota gave him a helping hand. Sam Cassell and Latrell Sprewell. This wasn't anything close to a super team, but for the first time in his career, he didn't have as much pressure on his back. While he had this help, he didn't slow down. If anything, he got even better. He played 82 games. Think about that, in an era where basketball was much more rough. Nowadays, whenever the top players play just a little bit more than 60 games, we consider that a healthy season. Kevin Garnett played every single game of the season, while having to carry an entire franchise on his back. And his numbers were justifying his case just as much. 24 points, nearly 14 rebounds and 5 assists, leading the league in rebounding, alongside an All-NBA first team and a first team All-Defense. All these numbers and stats that I'm listing out are already impressive enough, but it doesn't display how great he was. The way this man treated the game of basketball was ridiculous. The way he moved, he defended every play as if his life depended on it. And that's why we see so many players talking highly about him. Here's another thing I can say about him. Whenever we think of the greatest players ever, they usually revolutionize something. Steph Curry revolutionized shooting. Shaq could score in the paint at will. Magic could pass out a dime to anyone. Dennis Rodman would never let anyone else get close to even grabbing a rebound. Kevin Garnett was essentially fitting all of those things. He was efficient at everything he'd do to a very high level. Let's start with his offense. Many people think that KG wasn't much of a scorer because he wasn't putting up Harden-style numbers every night, and later in his Celtics career, you don't usually see him putting up the same numbers that he did on the Wolves. But that wasn't the case. Turnaround fadeaways, the long deep range twos he's known for, he'd find his teammates as well, and that's another thing that's majorly overlooked when you look at this MVP season. He was a great passer. He'd bring the ball up the court and call plays and predict and read defenses. He was throwing passes that were shocking at the time to be seen by a 7-footer. Nowadays we have guys like Jokic and Kat, and it's a bit more normal. Seeing those types of bigs now really make us forget that the norm for bigs wasn't someone like Kevin Garnett. He was truly ahead of his time and his era. He was a power forward that was creating offense, and it just continues to age his 2004 season like fine wine. That same Kevin Garnett would do amazing in today's game. And it's the same thing watching him play defense. Many defenders are typically just good at one thing, protecting the rim or locking down the fast guards on the perimeter or having amazing help defense. Kevin Garnett was all of those things in one player. He could call out a play before it even happened. He would contest your jump shot while getting back to the paint. In 2004, a big man being this versatile on defense was truly something rare to see. Nobody expected a 7-footer to move like this. He never made it look like it was difficult. He was very well coordinated. His basketball IQ, especially on defense, was was insane. Athleticism aside, he knew where the offense would go before they did. And I feel like that's just another reason as to why this season deserves so much more praise than it already does. It was pure fundamentals. There wasn't any crazy flashy defense, and he wasn't looking to block someone every possession. He was cold, calculated, and wanted to give everyone a tough time. In that season, Kevin Garnett made the most offensively aggressive players look weak. They would feel uncomfortable, and that's something that these stats just can't show. Winning MVP wasn't just the best part about his season. Obviously, it's a feat that only 36 people have done by the time of this video, but he really did it all. I hate to say it, but I never got to watch Kevin Garnett, except when he was on his last season with the Boston Celtics and the Brooklyn Nets and the Timberwolves for his farewell. I would have loved to seen him play in his prime, because I know during that MVP season, every possession felt important, and he never looked like he was taking it easy. No matter what the odds were, he played the exact same. He'd have the same demeanor, he'd dive for loose balls and give his teammates calls. He'd celebrate, he'd yell, and when someone is like that, you can just tell that the game of basketball really means so much to them. I love Kevin Garnett for that reason. His energy wasn't fake. He wasn't purposely trying to make himself seem crazy, and you could tell that he had a deep passion for the sport, and that's an element that's slowly going extinct. He made you notice him. Regardless of which team you're a fan of, you wanted to see what this guy was going to lay out. Now the playoffs came, and Kevin Garnett is finally about to get an opportunity that he'd been waiting for years. People would say that he doesn't have what it takes, due to him always being a first-round exit, and that he's simply not good enough. But truthfully, they never built a proper team around him, until now. This year is different. They finished with their franchise best at 58 wins, leading the West, and they went against the 8-seed Nuggets, being led by a young Carmelo Anthony. Kevin Garnett averaged nearly 26 points, nearly 15 rebounds, 7 assists, alongside 1.2 steals and 2 blocks per game, while sending the Nuggets home with a 30-point Game 5. Denver put up a fight, but Minnesota really handled business, with Kevin Garnett being the main man, obviously. And finally, he made it out of the first round, but this next series is one that everyone should know about. He went against a very good Sacramento Kings team, and if you watched basketball back then, you'd know how great this team was. Chris Webber, Mike Bibby, Peja Stojakovic, Doug Christie. This wasn't a regular team that was just going to make it into the playoffs and maybe bounce off in the first or second round. These guys were also looked at to be a championship contender. This was a bloody 7-game series. Everything mattered throughout this series. Wins felt amazing, losses felt like the world was ending, and Kevin Garnett delivered a phenomenal Game 7 performance. 32 points, 21 rebounds, 5 blocks. When I found out about that, I swear my jaw still drops till this day. In a Game 7 to just keep your season alive. He took over, and this is what an MVP is supposed to do. If you ever think to yourself, what does someone carrying a team look like? Don't just watch LeBron carrying the Cavs. Watch this series. Minnesota won, and Kevin Garnett was so happy alongside the rest of his team. This was by far one of the most hype moments in his career so far. But not everything is sunshine and rainbows, sadly, for this season. They had to face the Los Angeles Lakers, and this was a squad that just recently finished off their three-peat, alongside a few new faces. You have Shaq, Kobe, Karl Malone, and Gary Payton. This is by far one of the most talented teams ever, and it was incredibly difficult for the Timberwolves. Kevin Garnett tried his hardest, averaging nearly 24 points, 13 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal, and 1 block per game. It was an insanely difficult 6-game series. Alongside Sam Cassell getting hurt just made it worse, and Sam Cassell was insanely important. He wasn't just a starter, he was literally the second option. He was the guy that created offense when Kevin Garnett needed help. And without there being a second option, it just became easier for the Lakers. They are able to just put all their focus on Kevin Garnett now. And regardless of how hard he tried, it just wasn't enough. The dream is gone now. After a fantastic season, it's over. No finals and no championship. I truly think that if Sam Cassell didn't get hurt and Kevin Garnett continued doing what he's doing and they end up beating the Lakers and beat the Pistons after, this would have been by far one of the greatest MVP seasons ever. I really do think that it would be compared to something like a 2013 LeBron, and that's not even an exaggeration. Unfortunately, this season just fades away from everyone's memory. It's a shame. Championships matter, and they always will. I'm thankful that Kevin Garnett eventually got a ring with the Celtics. This man was a once-in-a-lifetime type of player. Being able to guard every position while running your offense, while leading the league in rebounding, on top of protecting the rim, and throwing yourself across the court to get a loose ball, all while having to do it all over again for the next possession, is just one of the reasons why you should watch this man. And that's why I think he's so special. He dominated because he had an upper hand in every part of basketball. This season deserves more love. If you want to know what a complete basketball player looks like, it's Kevin Garnett.